Welcome to this predicted paper from onmaths. This paper represents the best guess for the upcoming exams. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. Onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. All angles around a point add up to 360 degrees. So we've got this angle here, which is 25 degrees, and we've got this angle here, which is currently unknown. So to find out what A is, we're going to take away that 25 from 360. And when you do that, you get 335 degrees, which is our answer. You'll often need to write down the reason, which is angles around a point add up to 360 degrees. Here we're given or asked for a cube root of a number. So what we need to do is we need to understand first of all what the cube root of 125 is. Well, I know that 5 to the power of 3, 5 cubed is 125, and that's something you need to know off by heart. Therefore, the cube root of 125 is like the opposite, it's the inverse. So the cube root is the inverse of cubing, so that's going to equal 5. So if the cube root of 125 is 5, what's the cube root of minus 125? Well, I know the cube root of 125 is 5 because 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. 5 times itself 3 times is 125. So what times itself 3 times is going to equal minus 125, where it's going to be minus 5 times minus 5, which will be positive 25, times minus 5 will be a negative minus 125. So our answer is going to be minus 5. So we need to first of all understand what a cube number is. So a cube number is the answer to when you get 3 integers or whole numbers and we multiply them by themselves 3 times. So 1 times 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, 4 times 4 times 4 is 64, and 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. So 1, 8, 27, 64, 125 are all cube numbers, and it goes on forever. And this question's asked us to find all the odd, or an odd, cube number that is smaller than 100. So it has to be odd, so that gets rid of the 8 and the 64, and it has to be smaller than 100, so that gets rid of the 125. So I can either write down 1 would be a fine answer, or 27. I'm going to go for 1. Whenever we multiply two negatives, we always get a positive, so we know our answer will be positive. We're going to do 9 times 12, which is going to be 108, and v times v, which is going to be v squared. Median means middle of an ordered list. Now, when numbers are put in a stem leaf diagram, it means by default they are in order. So we're going to cross out the smallest and largest number. So the smallest number is the 4 here. Well, actually that represents 34. The largest is this 69 up here. Put a pen away. Then cross out the smallest. Well, the next smallest is 39. And the next largest is this 59. So I'm always going to the top left, then the bottom right. So the top left number is this 43. Bottom right number is this 54. Top left number is this 44. Bottom right number is this 53. Now, here's a problem. We're left with two numbers in the middle, this 49 and this 52. So whenever we're left with two numbers, what we do is we add them together, divide by 2. So to find the median, we're going to do 49 plus 52, and we're going to divide that by 2. So 49 plus 52 is going to be 101, divided by 2. And 101 divided by 2 is 50.5, or 50 and a half. And again, realise that 50 and a half is halfway between 49 and 52. So football is represented as a quarter of this pie chart. And so if there are 60 students altogether, we just do 60 divided by 4 to find a quarter of it, and that's 15. So there are 15 people who picked football. So what we need to do is find out where the graph is at its highest, and so it's highest here. And so if we go down from there, we find out what year it is. Well, these years seem to be going up in one, so that's 1950, 1951, 1952. So the answer would be 1952. To get from the length of a square to the area, we square the length. To work backwards, what we do is we square root, because the inverse of square is square root. So we've got 196, and we're going to square root it to find the length. So we work out the square root of 196, which is what number times itself is 196. And you should learn them from 1 to 15, so you should know all of the square numbers from 1 to 15. So you should know that the answer is 14. So the length, therefore, is 14. So to work out what the perimeter is going to be the distance around the square. So if I draw a square out, we know that each of these lengths are 14. So it's just going to be 14 times 4, which will be 56. To find the midpoint, we can use this simple formula. And we're going to start off by finding the midpoint for the x component. And the formula is just adding the two x coordinates and dividing by 2. So we're just going to add the two x coordinates together. So we've got 2 plus minus 1 divided by 2. And that's going to be 1/2, or 0.5. Do the same thing for the y coordinates, and the formula is the same, but just with adding the y coordinates together and dividing by 2. So it's going to be -5 plus 2, all of that divided by 2. So that's going to be -3 over 2, or -1.5. It's really important when answering this question that we're really methodical. So we're going to start off just looking at stake, and I'm going to start off with the S, and we're going to pair it with the first dessert, which is the I. Then we're going to pair the steak with the second dessert, which is the mousse. Then we're going to pair it with the third dessert, which is the fruit. So we're being really methodical. We've done all of the combinations with steak. And so we're going to look at burger next, and we're going to pair it with the first ice cream, then burger, and we're going to pair it with the mousse, and then finally the burger we're going to pair with the fruit. As long as we do things methodically, we don't ever miss any. All probabilities have to add up to 1, and so the probability it will rain tomorrow is 0.15, and so the probability it won't rain is 1 minus 0.15, which will be 0.85. So you do need to know the parts of a circle. So the full distance around the circle is called the circumference. If you've got a little bit of it, it's an arc. If you've got a line across it, that would be a chord. And the part that's kind of trapped in there is called a segment. Then if you've got a line across the circle going through the centre, that's a diameter. If you've got a line just going to the centre, if I can draw it properly, then that's called a radius. If you've got a line that touches the circle just on one point, like that, that's a tangent. But in this case, we have a sector. So in this question, we basically need to add the 2 3/4 and the 2 2/5. So we're going to do 2 3/4 plus 2 2/5. Now if I just rewrite this, 2 3/4 can be written as 2 plus 3/4 plus 2 plus 2 1/5, or 2/5. So we can add the two 2's together to make 4, and then all we need to do is add the 3/4 and the 2/5. So when you add two numbers with different denominators, what we need to do is get the common denominators. And we do that by just quickly writing out the 4 and the 5 times table and seeing what the first number in both their times tables is. 16, 20, and 5, 10, 15, 20. So that's 20. So we need to get the bottoms of the fractions to 20. Now for 3/4, to get the bottom to equal 20, we need to times the 4 by 5. And whatever you do to the bottom, you've got to do to the top, so times that by 5 as well, which will be 15. And for 2/5, we'll get that bottom to 20, so we times that by 4. And so we've got to times the top by 4 as well, to make it 8. So it's going to be 15 over 20 plus 8 over 20. So we need to add the numerators. So it'd be 15 plus 8, which is going to be 23 over 20. Now that is a top-heavy fraction, so we can rewrite that as 1 and 3/20. And we can add the 4 and the 1 together to make 5 and 3/20. So the answer is 5 and 3/20. So here we're asked to find how many bread rolls we can make. We've got 89 kilograms and it takes 0.08 kilograms to make a bread roll. Something we can do is convert these into grams, or we can just keep it at kilograms, but I've got a neat little trick. And the trick is, if you've got a decimal when you're dividing, as long as you do the same thing left and right, you can multiply them by 10 or 100. In this case, we're going to multiply both by 100, because it will make the division a lot easier, because it will make this right hand side, instead of 0.08, it will just make it 8. The reason we can do that is 89 divided by is the same as 89 over 0.08, and as a fraction we can just times top and bottom by 100, so it would be this over 8. So now we can do the bus stop method. So 8 on the outside, and in fact I might use a straighter line here. There we are. And we've got 8,900 on the inside. So 8 into 8 go 1, 8 into 9 go 1, remainder 1, 8 into 10 go 2, remainder 2, and 8 into 20 go 2, remainder 4, and 8 into 40 go 5. Now it says how many bread rolls can we make. Now we can make 1,122 and a half. Well, half doesn't really count, so we're just going to say 1,122 whole bread rolls. Yes, we've got half a bread roll left over, but we are asked how many whole bread rolls can we make. So the symbol here basically means and the way I remember it is, if you draw that symbol and just put a line through it, you can make the word and. So we're looking at the probability of getting something that is in A and C. So the only ones that are in A and C are this 8 and this 9 here. So we're going to just add the 8 and the 9 together, which give us 17. Now we need to then work out how many numbers there are in total, so that's all of them. So 4 plus 8 plus 9 plus 5 plus 8 plus 3 plus 11 plus 6. So we need the total, which is 54. And then we get the 17, and we put that over the amount in total, so over 54. To find the gradient, we need to find 2 points we know on this graph. So I'm going to pick that coordinate and this coordinate here. And we know that we need to draw a right angle triangle between them. And we find the gradient by the change in y, which is 3, over the change in x. But notice the change in x is 1, so it's going to end up being 3 divided by 1, which is just 3. So a different definition of the gradient is for every 1 we go to the right, how far up we go, which is 3. To convert from meters to centimeters, we times by 100. But here we're asked to convert between meters cubed and centimeters cubed. So we times it by 100 per dimension. Meters cubed and centimeters cubed is volume, which is 3 dimensions. So what we do is we times it by 100 3 times, times 100, times 100, times 100, or times by 100 cubed. So we get our amount, 0.15, times it by 100 cubed, and that will give us 150,000. So our answer is 150,000 centimeters cubed. So we know that 171 is 3 times 3 times 19. And what we do is we just compare 171 with 342. And we know that 171 times 2 is 342. So therefore 342 will have the same prime factors as 171, which is 3 times 3 times 19, but it will also have a times 2 in there. So the answer will be 2 times 3 times 3 times 19. So we need to first of all work out the amount of machine minutes it takes to make a toy. And what we do is we multiply the amount of machines by the amount of minutes. So 5 times 40, which would be 200. So if we had one machine, it would take 200 minutes to create one toy. Here we're asked, well, okay, what if we wanted a toy every 8 minutes? So we get the 200 and we divide it by 8. And when we do that, we get 25. So if we had 25 machines, we would be able to make it every 8 minutes. And the logic here is 5 machines. So this is machines, and this is minutes, is 40. Then 8 minutes. Think about it, we divide that by 5 to get to 8, and so if we divide the amount of minutes by 5, we actually times the amount of machines required by 5. So this is called an inverse relationship. So if one doubles, the other halves. If one divided by 5, the other will times by 5. So our answer here is 25 machines. So we're told the length of this rectangle is u, and the width is u plus 2. Doesn't matter which way around we do it. And we're told the area is 80. So we can actually write an equation from this. So u times u plus 2, so that's the length times the width, is equal to the area, which is 80. So let's expand this. And what we're going to do is we're going to put everything to the same side. So all I'm going to do here is subtract 80 from both sides. And so we've got u squared plus 2u minus 80 equals 0. Now we're going to be using quadratics, so we're going to factorize this. And so we need two numbers that add together to make 2 and times together to make minus 80. So I'm going to put my brackets out. So we're going to have u at the start of the brackets, and let's have a think. So it's going to be 8 and 10, and one of them will be positive, one of them will be negative. Well, to add them together to make 2, the 10 will have to be positive, and then the 8 would have to be negative, and then minus 8 times 10 is minus 80. Okay, last thing is we get each of our equations equal to, each of our brackets equal to 0, so we can solve them. Let's just do this in normal colour. So u minus 8 equals 0, and let's solve that. And so we're going to add 8 both sides, and we've got u equals 8. And we're going to do the same for this right hand bracket. So u plus 10 equals 0. Get our lines in. and take away 10 both sides. So u equals minus 10. Now it might get confusing because it says find the value of u, but a length needs to be positive. So this minus 10 is not the correct answer. Our correct answer will be 8. And we can actually check this because if I fill in the value of 8, so we can have 8 at the top here, and 8 plus 2, which is 10. 8 times 10 is 80. So we know that we've got the right answer. So to answer this question, you need to just know the answer off by heart. There is a diagram that can help us actually get there. And if we just draw a right angle triangle and put the lengths as 1, not right angle here, we can use Pythagoras, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, to work out the fact that this is going to be root 2. Because it's an isosceles triangle, this angle here is going to be 45 degrees, and same with the bottom right one, but we're not interested in that. When we label it with our marked angle here, we've got the adjacent is here, and the hypotenuse is here. Now we know from trigonometry that cos x equals a over h. The angle is going to be cos 45, and a is going to be 1, and h is going to be root 2. Now, this is a bit of a strange one with 1 over root 2, because we need to actually be able to rationalise the denominator. And basically what that means, if you haven't done surds yet, or you aren't doing surds, is you times top 1 by root 2. And so we end up with root 2 over 2. So if you ever see 1 over root 2 is absolutely fine as an answer, but if you ever see the answer as root 2 over 2, the two are actually exactly the same. So writing 1 over root 2 is fine, or writing root 2 over 2 is also correct. So we can write this as a fraction, so it would be 2.84 times 10 to the power of 11 over 4 times 10 to the power of minus 2. What we can do is split this up into two fractions, so 2.84 over 4 times 10 to the power 11 over 10 to the power of 2, or minus 2. Okay, so we're going to start by doing 2.84 divided by 4. So we're going to just do the bus stop method, so 4 on the outside, and we've got 2.84 on the inside. 4's into 2 don't go, so carry the 2 across. 4's into 28 go 7, and 4's into 4 go 1. So it's going to be 0.71 times, and then the rules of indices say that if you divide two powers of the same base, they're both 10, then you just take away the power. So it's 11 take away minus 2. Now the two minuses, the two takeaways, actually convert to a plus, so it would be 11 plus 2, which would be 13, so it would be 10 to the power of 13. Now we've got a bit of a problem here, because standard form must have a number between 1 and 10, and not including 10, at this position here, and this is obviously less than 1, so we need to convert this into standard form. So what we can do is just write the number out again. So I'm going to write this as an actual number, so it's 10 to the power of 13, so it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13. Fill in the zeros. So it would be 7, 1 and all those zeros. And then I'm going to put it back into standard form. Now the decimal point will need to be here to make it 7.1. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's going to be 7.1 times 10 to the power of 12. Now, with a bit of practice, you don't need to write out the whole number. You'll be able to just know that if you convert that into 7.1, then you just need to take away 1 from the power. But if you're not sure, and it's not an unreasonable number like 10 to the power of 105, then it's just worth sometimes just writing out the actual number and being 100% sure that you've got it the right way around. Y is inversely proportional to x means that y is proportional to 1 over x. And I'm going to change that for an equal sign by timesing the right hand side by k. And k represents our constant. And we're told that when x is 5, y is 10.8. So I'm going to fill those in. I'm going to substitute those in to be able to find out what k is going to be. So it'll be k over 5. And we're going to be solving this. Let's get my lines in. And solve it, I just times by the bottom of the fraction. So times both sides by 5. And we're going to end up with 50.4 is equal to k. So k is 50.4. I'm going to rewrite this equation here, but we know what k is. It's 50.4. We're asked to find the value of x when y is 9. So we've got 9 equals 50.4 over x. And whenever in this situation here where we've got the unknown at the bottom of a fraction and we've got it equal to a number, what you can do here is actually just swap these around. Effectively we're timesing both sides by x and dividing both sides by 9. But it does really help us out here because it just says that x is equal to 50.4 over 9. We can just do that on the calculator and it gives us 5.6. So we need to first of all work out what the length of the side of the square is. And to do that, what we do is we get the 44v to the power 4 w to the power 5 and we just divide it by 4. And to do that, all we need to do is just divide the coefficient by 4. So it'd be 11v to the power 4 w to the power 5. Some people will try and do something with the v to the power 4 w to the power 5, but if you think about it, if I just draw out my square, if it's 11v to the power 4 w to the power 5 all the way around, when you add, you don't add the v to the power 4 w to the power 5, it's just going to be 11 lots, another 11 lot, another lot of 11, and another lot of 11. So it's 44 v to the power 4 w to the power 5 in total. And to work out what the area is, we obviously are going to square that. So we're going to do 11 v to the power 4 w to the power 5, and we're going to just times it by itself, which is what squaring means. Okay, so we're going to times the 11s together, so that's going to be 121. Going to times the v to the power 4s together, and remember with indices, if you times two powers of the same base, and they're both v, then we just add the powers together, so that'd be 8. And we're going to add the w to the power 5s together, so that makes 10. So it's 121 v to the power of 8, w to the power of 10. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.